Hey guys, what is going on? And welcome back to the Fortem Training podcast with me, owner and head coach of Fortem Training, Kieran Douglas Jones. Welcome to episode 2. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for coming back after episode 1. This episode, we're going to talk a little bit about the story of the brand. This is probably going to be a little bit different to what the other episodes are going to be like, but I definitely think there's quite a few lessons to be learned from the story of the brand and what I went through in starting the brand some 2 years ago. 2 years ago this month. Yeah, it is. We launched 2 years ago this month, May. This has been recorded on the 9th of May. I believe we actually launched. I think it was the 12th of May was the actual launch date. 12th of May 2016 was when Fortem Sportswear actually launched. We originally Fortem Sportswear, now Fortem Training. So yeah, I'm going to talk a little bit about the story, about the journey from then until now in every detail, and hopefully point out sort of some things that you could probably take on board and sort of some lessons to be learned from how things went, how things worked, and sort of what you can learn from that as well. So yeah, as I said, we officially launched in May of 2016. I was in college, I believe. I was in college. I wasn't. I'd finished college the previous year, so I was 18, I think, 2 years ago, 21. I was 18, nearly 19, I think. I can't quite work it out. Yeah, 2016, May 2016, 18. Yeah, I would have been 18. Before that, while I was in college, I was sort of doing some other sort of stuff, selling online, selling that sort of stuff, and that's where I sort of got the taste for business, so to speak, is the probably the right way to put it. But yeah, that's where I sort of got my taste for wanting to run a business and wanting to run something for myself. And then I think it all started work on it in February of 2016. May the 12th, 2016, we launched Fortem Sportswear. It started off slow, as I would expect. Like, I look back now and think about the work that I was doing to make it happen. And yeah, although I put huge amounts of effort into making it happen and making it all start, I know substantially more now about probably what I needed to do more of compared to what I probably knew back then. So yeah, that is sort of where everything started. Back in May of 2016, we started off Fortem Sportswear. Like I said, we were originally Fortem Sportswear, and that was the plan. It was sort of sportswear stuff, casual, mixed with sort of functional clothing. You could wear for the gym, you could just wear for general training. At this time, I had not found CrossFit as the way I have now, and I will get into that, sort of how I found that in a little bit. But yeah, sort of hadn't found CrossFit. The plan for the brand was to make clothing. It was to make sportswear and sort of just mix, like I said, a mix of casual clothing mixed with sort of functional training, the classic gym goer kind of clothing. So yeah, that was sort of the initial plan with the brand. So it started off, like I said, really, really slow, as most things do. Most things are like when you don't have an audience already and you launch something, you've got to build your own audience, and things are very, very slow, but they do tend to snowball fairly. Once you get it rolling, they tend to snowball and get things moving as you go. So yeah, that's where that's one of the biggest things I think now, is sort of the audience that I didn't have, and I still managed to get it off the ground and get it moving, although slow. That's where things have to start. But yeah, super happy with getting things going, and I'm very, very glad that I jumped in at the deep end and sort of learnt all the lessons along the way, and that has got me to sort of where I am now. Not to say that where I am now is where I want to finish, and we're still aiming to move on forward from here. But yeah, it was a great place to get us going. And they spent sort of up to, from there, I had to write down dates before this because I'm terrible with dates anyway, and I get them all mixed up. So yeah, May 2016 through, and I found CrossFit actually in October of that year. So sort of I found actual CrossFit. I sort of started dabbling in CrossFit around like late September, October of that year. Steel plates I've actually still got. You can't see on the video, but for the benefit of the listeners as well, down to the right of me here on the floor, I have still got the steel plates that I first had, the first sort of part of the garage gym, so to speak. I got the steel weights, and I've also got to the left of me, for the purpose of the listeners, I've got the barbell, the 32mm barbell, the bolted on ends that you can't drop on the floor. It's actually got a little bit of a bend in it. It doesn't spin properly. Yeah, that's the first barbell I had, and I started off sort of making do with what I had. I bought some kettlebells as well, and I was sort of doing things like kettlebell swings and walking lunges with the plates, because obviously you can't drop the plates, or very difficult to do sort of Olympic lifting and that sort of stuff. So I was doing things like walking lunges. I've also got out the front of the house, there is a sort of a step that we have just in front of the driveway, and I was using that for doing either box jumps up onto, I think it's about 20 inches, that's only how high it is. I was doing box jumps up onto that. I would do step ups. I would do sort of like reverse lunges off there, back down. So I was sort of making do with I was making do with sort of what I had and making the best of what I had, rather than sort of having the best of everything. So yeah, it was a good time. I was really trying hard to make it work, and I was sort of dabbling into CrossFit and what I could do of it to make it happen. Then I'd had enough of the steel plates, as you very quickly do for those of you that have been in that position where you've only got steel plates and you haven't got bumpers. I got myself a huge set of bumpers, and I was supremely pleased. It's probably the right thing. I got myself 2 pieces of flooring. I'm looking down, I'm standing on, I bought myself 2 1 meter squares of flooring. And then to use them, I would either like try and clear like things that are around in the garage. Those of you that follow me on Instagram for a very, very long time, if you really scroll back through my personal Instagram at Kieran Douglas Jones, you will see the garage that we're in now. There was like not even half the amount of space that I have now got, and we still got a lot more to sort of try and take over or acquire. I've acquired more as we got started, but yeah. I had 2 pieces of meter squared flooring, and I used to take them outside, because at that time I think like the weather was pretty nice, and I remember training quite a lot outside. So I'd take them outside and just lift on those 2 pieces of flooring, and I was making do. And that was sort of where the first sort of inklings of transition for the brand came. In that I found CrossFit my type of training. My personal training was sort of adapting and changing a little bit. So I thought, while my training was going that way, and while I was sort of adapting to moving more towards CrossFit, that the brand should as well. And that's sort of the first inkling of things changing from Fortem Sportswear to Fortem Training. So that was sort of October of 2016. Then I sort of, as I got the bumper plates, started lifting. I knew a lot about Olympic lifting anyway, particularly cleans and power cleans, because I spoke about it in the first episode, from the rugby, that my background in rugby and the strength and conditioning program that we had, actual coach who coached that, Rodri West, who went to the Commonwealth Games just a couple of months ago. Was it last month or was it the month before? I can't remember. He went to the Commonwealth Games weightlifting for Wales, so that he was the strength and conditioner we had at the 3 years. So we done a lot of work on power cleans. We did a little bit of snatching stuff, not quite so much. So a lot of what I've done there is a lot of self-taught, a lot of YouTube, and that sort of things. But yeah, cleans, I was pretty well versed in cleans, particularly power cleans. So that's what I started with, and then just gradually built into being able to squat clean. So yeah, and I sort of dabbled in CrossFit for a couple more months through early 2017. Then I was getting into it, and I was really getting into it, like really bought in, sold on the CrossFit idea, and this is what I want to do, this is my training. And training is something that I've always been interested in as a whole, from much younger, from 12, 13, always been very, very interested. I've always written my own programming. when you don't necessarily see it like that when back then, because you don't understand quite too much about it. But like, I was looking on Facebook, Instagram. Wasn't really a big thing back then. We're talking maybe like 8-9 years ago. It was around, but like not perhaps quite. I wasn't on it. Facebook, YouTube. I was just using that and taking inspiration from there and writing my own workouts, like, and doing them in the school gym. So yeah, I've always sort of written my own programming and done that sort of stuff. So gathered that knowledge over a number of years and developed my sort of ability to move. So before coming to CrossFit, I had quite a lot of sort of gym style training. A lot of the rugby stuff is back squat, front squat, bench press, and then sort of a lot of dumbbell work, which is what we did. Like, it's bodybuilding for the most part. It's bodybuilding. So I had a pretty solid base before coming to CrossFit. Obviously the skill stuff and the skill aspects, the double unders, the kettlebell swings not done quite so much of, the dumbbell snatches, any of the skill stuff, any of the gymnastic stuff, any of the pull-ups, like strict pull-ups, perfect. The butterflies, chest, kipping pull-ups, muscle-ups, super difficult. So I had to learn a lot there, so I wasn't too well versed in that sort of stuff. But yeah, sort of my training ramped up through early 2017, January, February, March, and then I decided I wanted to go on my level 1. I thought, no, this is something that I can really see myself doing, and I've never wanted to become an actual PT. I've never wanted to be a regular PT in a gym, something that's never really interested me. I've sort of been, I never want to be that person. I don't want to be in that job. Although I enjoy training and I enjoy coaching, that's not something that I've ever wanted to do. But then when I found CrossFit and I really bought into what CrossFit was about and the constantly varied high intensity functional fitness, functional movements, and that sort of sold me on, I could really see myself coaching this long term or doing some form of coaching, whether whatever it was at the time, I didn't really know. But I signed up for my L1 and I did my L1 in July. Sorry, I'm looking for the benefit of the viewers. The benefit of the listeners, sorry, those of you that are watching on YouTube, you can see me looking down. I've got the dates written down on my notebook because I am awful, like I said, I'm awful with dates. So yeah, July 2017, I did my L1, I passed, and sort of from there, I spent the next definite 4 months sort of spending time listening to podcasts. Barbell Shrugged was something that I've listened to extensively. A lot of their older episodes I've listened to extensively and sort of try to build my knowledge from listening to a lot of their stuff and following relevant people on Instagram. So that's sort of where from there onwards, really from July 17, passing the L1, spent the next couple of months, sort of July, August, September, October, learning as much as I could sort of about training, about coaching, and trying to, not necessarily coaching anyone, but taking the time to actually dig in and try and absorb as much information before delving into actually coaching as much as I could. And it was in August of when was it? Was it in August? There's a big crossover that I've got, and the dates got a little bit mixed up in my head, so I'm not quite sure if they're exactly right. But I think in August of 17, or either late July, August of 17, I became an athlete for Unit Programming. Unit Programming is run by Tom Loseby. If you follow him at unit_programming on Instagram, I think is their handle. Wherever you're watching, the link will actually be below, so if you want to check that out, please do. Tom, very, very knowledgeable guy. So Tom was doing all my programming, and I was sort of running 3 days a week on his programming, because with the rugby as well, like I mentioned in the last episode, I play semi-pro rugby. So with the rugby as well, I was only training, like really doing my own training 3 times a week, and then obviously 2 rugby sessions and a match on a Saturday as well was absolutely plenty for me to go through without having to try and cram extra sessions in. So I was on a 3-day-a-week program with Tom, And through that process, I learnt a lot. Tom's a really great, not really, really knowledgeable guy. Very knowledgeable. And at the time, I was vlogging. I was doing a lot of vlogs. Those of you that know my spiel and what I've been doing for the past 2 years will notice on YouTube that there's quite a few vlogs, and I did them quite extensively. And through that period, I did them quite in depth as well. So I was vlogging pretty extensively, so Tom gained a lot of, and we've spoken about this quite in depth. I was vlogging a lot, and he gained a lot out of watching the vlogs and seeing my experience with his programming. While I was doing a lot of the video stuff, Tom then asked me to come up to his place, a unit programming, and it was for the purpose of shooting some content for him for unit programming. I thought it was, I wanted to help out. I wanted to, it was made for a great vlog. It was very interesting. So in then early November, mid-November of 2017, so not so long ago actually, might even been late October 2017, I went to stay with Tom for a couple of days, and we shot a load of content. And while I was there for the few days, we spoke extensively on programming and sort of his knowledge, and he spoke to me about his story and what he's done. And although after doing my L1, I really lit the fire in myself to want to be a coach, and I was really like stoked, and this is what I want to do, and this is what I want to do for the long term. Then when I went and stayed with Tom, and we talked about his story and sort of his path to programming and his path to coaching, and sort of how he went about learning, and how much knowledge he had from the time that he'd spent learning, that made me super passionate to really dig in and want to actually become a coach, and to help as many people as possible, to really help and make an effort and make a difference to some people's lives, and just really to become a coach and have that be my main priority, and have that be sort of why I get up in the morning and why I put the effort in to helping people with their training. So yeah, it was that meeting with Tom that really sort of finally ignited things for me. So I owe a lot to Tom and his time that he put into my programming firstly, and then for having me there for a couple of days and we talked a lot about that sort of stuff. I wish I had been doing the podcast then, because that would have been some great content. But I will do. Tom is provisionally going to be a guest. If you are watching this, Tom, please, we want you on the podcast. I want you on the podcast. The listeners, if we do have any, want you on the podcast. So yeah, that sort of ignited my passion for coaching, and that's when the real shift came into, to relate this back to the brand and where the brand is going. That came the real shift for Fortem Training, and sort of where the real sort of rebrand and the shift more towards the programming and the plan for the long term was more on the programming and the coaching over the clothing. That's where the main sort of real shift inside of my head. We hadn't made it happen at that time in October, November of 17, but that's sort of where the real shift in my head came for the longer term plan moving towards coaching. So I can take a quick break there. We'll come back and we will carry on from that point onwards, from the November through to present day, and then sort of where the brand is heading long term. We're back up and running. Hey guys, welcome back to part 2. Quick little break there, but we're back up and running and good to carry on where we left off. So where I left off in the first part, just spent some time over with Tom at Unit Programming, Unit Fitness, his gym, and that sort of really ignited my passion for really wanting to coach and really dig into sort of the coaching side of things and really get involved with that. And it was sort of from there, from that time that I started working on Fortem Training, and that's where the brand sort of really shifted. Maybe a little bit before that, sort of really shifted to being inside of my head, being more about sort of the training and the programming and the coaching rather than being ultimately about the clothing. And so we sort of shifted focus and spent the next couple of months and into December and then into January of 2018 working on the programming side of things. So then in January then of 2018 was when I first took on my first few programming clients. They come in one-to-one with myself. They come in one-to-one with myself, and I'm still working with those clients that came on board today. So they've been in here since January, sort of late January was when we had the first clients come on board, and I spent the most, in terms of the remote stuff then, spent most of January working through sort of getting the website set up to accommodate our programming and getting it set up to get sign-ups and get people involved and get people interested to help them know more about sort of the programming, the options that we have available and those sorts of things. So that's what most of January entailed, and then sort of end of January we really released the remote programming, as well as bringing on board some local clients on a one-to-one basis. And like I said, those one-to-one clients that came on board, they are still with me today. They are still here 2-3 times a week. I work with them very, very closely on their training. For the most part, they are geared towards health and fitness. They're health and fitness clients over performance clients. Apologies, just getting a drink there. Yeah, so still working with them today. Also, around that time as well, and within a couple of weeks of launching that, we had a bunch of sign-ups to our remote coaching program. So we've got a couple of clients that are on board with our remote coaching program. And over the sort of coming weeks and coming months, if you do follow Fortem Training over on Instagram, you will see a bunch of the results that those guys are getting now. I will be curating some of the content from them, and that will be going out on Fortem Training Instagram page. So to see that, please do go and follow at fortem.training. So yeah, those guys are working really hard over on our remote coaching program, and that's sort of up to where we are today. The last couple of months has been spent not only coaching those guys, programming their training and working with them to develop their sort of lifestyle, their nutrition, all that good stuff, but also still, as I mentioned, still working really, really hard to continue to perfect my craft, so to speak, and continuing to sort of learn as much as I possibly can through consuming other content, podcasts, audiobooks, reading, a lot of reading as well, books, very, very helpful. But yeah, that leads us up to May of this year, up to present day. That's where sort of the brand has come to. And from sort of where we started this back in May 2016 up to now, I've learned a lot, like a whole lot, in terms of not only more recently in terms of coaching and in terms of how to coach and working with clients and all that good stuff, but also in terms of business, in terms of mindset, in terms of sort of how to run a business, how to really learning a lot about social media and a lot about content and a lot about putting out content, making content, just all that really good stuff. Brought me on a really, really big journey from where we started to where we are now, and I certainly am really looking forward to the future for Fortem Training, the future for myself in terms of coaching and in terms of really trying to learn even more and bring as much value from the content that we put out as is possible. So yeah, that's the whole story up to sort of present day. Then looking at the future of the brand. So the future of the brand is, for the long term, we're really programming, coaching, nutrition, lifestyle. That is the long-term plan for the brand. the clothing is still a pretty big part of what we're trying to do, but we're not necessarily focused. So the clothing has become more of a secondary for us over the programming and over the coaching, with that now becoming sort of a very firm fixture as the head of and the spearhead of the Fortem Training arrow, so to speak. So we do have our remote coaching program, which is we work remotely with our clients, and that is our flagship program that we are really pushing hard and working hard with all our remote clients at the moment, really working hard to give them the absolute utmost from their time working with us. Really working hard with them to make sure they really do get the utmost out of the efforts that they put in, and sort of adapting, helping them to make good lifestyle choices, and dialing in nutrition, really working hard on all aspects of what they do. Then also we have, like I mentioned, if you've got those one-on-one clients from the local area, which I do work with personally on a one-to-one, which is really great. I do enjoy that. I really do enjoy the sort of one-to-one work, because you really get to see sort of the progression through, particularly when you bring in a brand new client who is very, very new to training. The learning curve that they go on is very, very steep, but the progress they make over those first few sessions is very rewarding for both myself and, even more importantly, for the client, because they can make big progress in terms of, firstly, their movement, and like making big progress in their movement and their ability to move well very, very quickly. So yeah, the long term, like I said, the long term future of the brand and where it's heading is it is in the programming sphere, in the coaching sphere, and we're sort of putting a lot of work in behind the scenes into providing the clients that we do have with the sort of the guidance and the education in terms of training, nutrition, lifestyle, and giving them the education to allow them to make choices that work for them, and sort of giving them every single tool that we can provide to allow them to make the choices that they need to make in their own lifestyle. I think that's a big part for sort of the future where we're going, and the future of our clients and how we run things is the education part of, and teaching our clients, not only giving them their programming, giving them the nutrition, giving them these guidelines and this and that. It's educating them about why we do certain things in training, about why there are certain parts of the programming, why your nutrition looks like this, why it can look like this, why it can look like that, how to work things in around your lifestyle, having balance, and educating them on all these things is sort of a big aspect of what we're trying to do, and what we're trying to sort of give our clients to help them get the most from their time with us. So education is the biggest part of, obviously, results are a big part of what our clients want, but education is a big part of it also. So that's the long-term plan. That's the story up till now. That is the future of where we're heading. The future of this podcast is, I certainly hope we can build sort of a listenership, a viewership for those of you that like to watch this sort of stuff. So if you are just listening, you can head over to our YouTube, just search for Fortem Training on YouTube, and you should find us right there. You'll be able to see the video. If you are watching it right now, you can see I am in the Fortem Training Garage Gym. You can see the banner right behind me that you've seen on Instagram pretty frequently, and I'm here looking a little bit like a helicopter pilot with this headset on, but it is definitely much better quality than the one I did have on previously. So yeah, that is actually going to be it for this episode, for episode 2 of the Fortem Training Podcast. Recorded this straight after episode 1, on a roll, absolutely flying through these. Really pleased with the start that we're making. I certainly hope that you are enjoying as well. Please do continue to tune in. If you haven't already, please head to @fortem.training on Instagram and give us a follow. Fortem Training on Facebook. Have a look on there. There's a lot of content going out on Facebook in particular. And also head over to www.fortemtraining.com. Check out our programming pages. Have a look, get a feel for what we do. If anything takes your interest, please do fill in your email to set up a free consultation with myself, talk about your training. That is a no obligation consultation. So if you do sign up, you just want to find out more, go through the consultation process, you do not then have to sign up to the programming. The consultation process is absolutely free. We take all our clients through the consultation process to outline your goals, find out what you want from training, explain how we are going to give you that. All of that absolutely free, working with myself one-on-one. So if you do want that, head over to fortemtraining.com. Hit any of the page, hit any of the coaching pages, remote coaching, live strong, competitive athlete, any of those. Whack in your email address on that page, and I will be in touch with you via email very, very soon. Thank you so much for listening, and I will see you again in the next one. For those of you listening watching on YouTube, I get this wrong every time. I will see you in the next one. For those of you watching over on YouTube, those of you listening, thank you for listening, and I will see you in episode 3.